This is Fountain Pendulum. Let's have a look at this pen together. Now, often if I'm out and about at a show or a pen meetup and I have this pen with me for people to check out and try, most people have no idea what this is, even when they look at the finial. It's a TWSBI classic. TWSBI has been better known for their demonstrator pens in various sizes and models, but the classic goes rather unrecognized in the TWSBI lineup. So let's take a look at it today. What I really enjoy about the aesthetic of this pen is, first of all, this is the turquoise color, but it's kind of a Tiffany's blue, and it's a rounded pen. There it says TWSBI Classic, but then has 5 facets that line up beautifully throughout the barrel, which is more than I can say for a lot of other companies that have done facets. And it has silver colored hardware. You unscrew it. There's an O-ring to give you a secure and fluid capping feeling, meaning that when you cap it and you tighten it, you feel that resistance at the last turn. So that gives it a really nice feel, in my opinion. It looks like there is an inner cap. I apologize that there's no great way to show that at the moment. And we have a lovely ink window. Now, I've written this pen practically dry, so you'll see clarity in the ink window with some ink bubbles in there. Straight grip section. Would have been nice to have more girthiness to it, or maybe even a flare. I believe this is a Yovo number 5 steel, extra fine. And these aren't recommended to be removed, but I'm quite certain that you can friction fit pull it out. A couple more details. On the back end here are 2 more O-rings that feel practically flush, and I imagine that is for posting. Let me zoom out a little bit. Yeah, so this is if you would post the pen, and to me that's too long, but for those who post, that gives it a secure feel because of the grip of the O-rings. The TWSBI finial, slightly rounded at the top there. It's a nice clip. Now, what I would say, what can be done here that I would like this pen even more, it's a piston filler, holds quite a bit of ink. I'll see if I can find out how much exactly, but what would be improved in my opinion, the color's not bad, like it's kind of a Tiffany's blue. If it was a little more gray, it might be more aesthetically pleasing. So more of the same hue, but a little bit more grayed out. And if it was bronze hardware, I think that would look really nice. And if the pen in general was more of a girthy pen, especially the grip section, I would say for comfort, surprisingly, this step up doesn't bother me. Let me see if I can get that in better focus. The step up that's there doesn't bother me, but how thin the grip section is itself, I don't find comfortable, especially for longer writing sessions, which to me are something in length of a page or more. So that's what I would have to say about that. So with the ink that remains, let's go ahead and do a writing sample. And the ink is Pilot Iroshizuku Syo-Ro. Okay, it's an extra fine. It writes beautifully as an extra fine. And this is actually, no joke, one of my favorite writers when it comes to the nib experience. It's an extra fine. It writes like an extra fine. It feels like the perfect balance between in wetness for my writing experience anyway. I've had this pen inked since the summertime. It's an occasional writer, and I don't have more of this ink to check, but I don't feel like the ink has become more concentrated much from how long this has been inked. Every time I've uncapped this pen to go and write with it, it always writes. No hard starting whatsoever. Hasn't dried out, which I think is very impressive. I have a number of fountain pens in my collection that are more of an investment, many times over, price-wise, than this TWSBI Classic. They don't perform as well. They don't have nibs that are such a pleasant balance of smoothness and feedback. I'd say more feedback, which I really love. So I really I love the amount of feedback that's on this nib. It allows you to feel the writing experience, feel your strokes, have control, but it feels smooth. This is tuned beautifully. So the nib writes beautifully. It's well tuned. The capping and the ability to keep the pen ready to write with by not getting the nib dried out is remarkable. So in that respect, this pen is very impressive. And I've already mentioned the things that I would change if I could to make this more of an enjoyable pen for me personally. So yeah, I wish that more pens and pen companies had these attributes, that they had nibs that were well tuned and that wrote in the point size that they're assigned to. Excellent quality control there. And that had a design and the caps that over the matter of months being used, being not used, you could uncap a pen and just write with it and not have to worry about when the last time you used it was. So I've written this pen pretty well dry finally now, and it's ready to be cleaned up and stored until its next inking, but it had a long run there, and I think that length of time really tested its abilities, and I am satisfied and impressed. Another consideration is that TWSBIs were designed to be taken apart, which is really cool. So I'm going to go through some, but not all, of the disassembly of the TWSBI. And I say not all because these were designed to take apart to the point that with purchase is a TWSBI wrench and some silicone grease, and how that would work, I believe, though there's instructions provided, and I'm not on this endeavor today, but you would pull the piston out, and the wrench, there's a round and a flat side, if you can see that right there. So the wrench would fit in like this, and you would use it to remove the back end of the pen and the piston so that you could grease the piston or do a deep cleaning if you were so inclined. But what I want to talk about is more of a standard cleaning. So normally you would insert the nib into water deep so that it could pull the water up and operate the piston back and forth numerous times until the water is clean and free of ink. Well, here's another thing that you should consider. These TWSBIs, and most of them, unthread here. So what you have is your nib and the barrel. And there is a very nice opening right there that you could so conveniently get a blunt tip syringe for cleaning and rapidly flush this out with water, which is exactly what I did. And then this becomes disassemblable further. The grip section comes out, and then this metal housing detaches. And here you have the nib unit itself, and here's a little O-ring right here that you want to keep there. And then you can get a bulb syringe, which is what I did, and flush this through with water very easily and get it nicely cleaned. I even used a little toothbrush to clean the fins. Now, at this point, if you had multiple of these, you could interchange, which I wish I knew because I used to own a TWSBI Precision. And I got it in a stub. It's a 1.1 millimeter stub, and the only reason that I got rid of it was, or I should say one of the reasons I got rid of it, is because I wasn't using anything that broad anymore. Now I'm the other end of the spectrum, extra fine. So that's really good to know. Now, technically, this is friction fit into here, and you could remove it. My understanding is that TWSBI fins on the feed are very fragile, and if you pull this out, you risk damage. I don't need to do that. There's no purpose for me to do that, so I'm not going to be doing that. But if you had a rubber gripper, you could do that if you needed to swap the nib, or if you had shimmer stuck in your housing and in your feeds and in your nib that you needed to clean out. You'd need to be very careful for the reasons that I already mentioned. So, metal housing goes back on. It fits really nicely because of that O-ring at the end. The grip section goes back on. One end looks perhaps a little more flared, so I think that would go this way. Everything's cleaned out, and then we reassemble it. So, I wanted to point that out because I think that is an excellent feature and benefit of the designs of these TWSBI pens. So thank you for watching the review on this TWSBI Classic, and let me know if you have had the same or similar experience with a TWSBI Classic of your own or another TWSBI pen altogether. I know that experiences vary, but this was mine. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. It's all up to you now.